Hello out there in video land. Doug Wilkerson here at Central Christian Center and Saturday Night Live. Hey, I got a couple of words for you here. Encouraging words from Doug. And the encouraging word is hold your ground. I want you to hold your ground. You know, in this time that we're having right now, there's a lot of chaos and craziness. But it's also, guess what? It's Easter time. And in just a couple more days, it'll be Easter. And there's a lot of people talking about Easter and different ones giving insights at Easter. And I could talk about Easter, but, you know, my mama didn't raise a dummy. And if she did, it was my brother. Yeah, I've got a couple of brothers out there. Hi, guys. It's, just kidding, just a joke. But anyway, Easter is an important time of the year, and we want everyone to have a blessed Easter time. So please enjoy Easter and enjoy the family that you're able to get together. But I want to give you a quote here from Viktor Frankl, and he said that everything in life can be taken away from you except for one thing. And that one thing is our choice to choose our response in every situation. Sometimes we feel helpless, but we don't have to be helpless. We have the opportunity to choose. One thing I want you to understand right now, that you can make a choice. In fact, you are making a choice. I read something I think it was either last night or this morning, a person talking about they're just so wore out, so overwhelmed, so mentally and emotionally spent that they almost sound like that they are on the thresholds of maybe doing something permanent. But the fact of it is, we have a choice. And we don't have to give in to those pressures. I want to give you an encouraging word. Stand your ground. Stand your ground. You can do it. You know, and Viktor Frankl said you have that choice. And also the scriptures. Deuteronomy 30:19 says, I set before you blessings and cursings. And it says, therefore, choose life. We get to choose. And we choose for ourselves. And it goes on to say, we choose for our families. Joshua 24:15 says this, I set before you blessing, I set before you life and death, blessing and cursing, and you can have, I read the wrong scripture there. Joshua 24:15 says, choose you this day whom you'll serve. Sorry about that. Choose you this day whom you will serve. You have that choice. And he said, and far as for me and my house, we are going to serve the Lord. So we have to make a choice. We can't be in neutral. We can't just be picked up by every emotional wave that passes our way. Sure, it hits us. But then we get our foothold. We need to get a toehold. We need to get grounded, okay? We need to decide that I don't have to be pushed around here because you do have the right to choose. God's giving you that right. We can stand in faith and stand in fear exactly at the same time. I know that sounds weird. Earlier in my Christian life, I felt like that I was sinning by feeling fearful, feeling like I wasn't good enough. And I came across this scripture, and this is really a very important scripture to me, and I'm going to share that with you today, and that's Psalms 56:3, and this is King David saying, when I am afraid, I will trust in you. And that gave me so much encouragement and hope in my earlier years, that King David, the mighty warrior that he was, said that when he was afraid, that he was able to trust in God. And in fact, if you think about it, that when we are afraid, that is absolutely the time that we need the faith. We need our faith. And so to offset our fear, to reset us, if you will. Another scripture that was special to me in a particular hard time of my life, and that's when I thought I didn't think I could make it. It was overwhelming. Odds were against me. I was working for the church, and the situation was basically there was just turmoil in the church, in the pastor, in myself, and I was praying about what to do. And this scripture came to me, and it was, after doing all to stand, stand therefore. And that's out of Ephesians 6, 13 and 14. And the truth was, the fight and flight survival mechanism was going on, and I'd have preferred to fight. That was more given to my personality, particularly at that time, probably still at this time. But I would have preferred to fight. But I was willing to go. In fact, I resigned a couple of different times, but they wouldn't let me resign. And so I got this scripture, and stand therefore. That was the hardest thing for me, was to stand. Not to fight, not to run, but to stand, and stand my ground. And almost like Moses on there, watch the salvation of the Lord and watch the Red Sea split open. But we need to stand our ground. We need to hold firm. Another thought I want to put in here is that we need to focus on where we want to go, not where we don't want to go. Oftentimes when we get overwhelmed by fear, we give in to it. And in fact, we go to looking at it. It's a monster chasing us, and we're afraid it's going to catch us, and we run while we're watching the monster. And when you're doing that, it gets bigger, and we get tripped up of things that are in our way that we're not looking at. Another tendency of not watching where we're going, we oftentimes when we get afraid, I heard this scenario of someone being taught how to drive a race car, and they told them, when you go around the corner, when you start sliding into the wall, do not look at the wall. And of course, everyone's tendency is, when you start sliding towards the wall, is to look at where you don't want to go. And the instructor says, don't look at where you don't want to go, look at where you do want to go. I want you to hear that. Look at where you do want to go. Focus on where you want to go. That's where your faith is. And if you're focused on the bad thing or the thing you're fearful, then you're actually wasting your faith in a negative way. So focus on where you want to go. And I remember when I was a kid, I used to ride my bicycle down the hill, and there was a chug hole in the middle of the road, and I told myself, I remember, I was probably 6, 7, 8. I told myself, do not run in that hole. Do not hit that hole. Do not hit that hole. Guess what I did? I hit that hole, because I could not take my eyes off of the hole. I learned that what we have to do is we have to focus on the path around the hole. If you look at the path, you're not looking at the hole. And if you look at the path, that's where you go. And now in this time, we have to stand our ground. We have to hold on. We have to focus on where we're going to go. Hang in there. Focus on where you want to go. Don't look at where you don't want to go. Because we go to looking at where we don't want to go, it just gets bigger in our head, bigger in our mind. And we can never outrun that. Stand our ground. Stand our ground. Scripture. And everybody knows this one, and this is out of 2 Timothy 1:7, it says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear." I know you already know that. He hasn't given that to us. We may feel it, but He didn't give it to us. So what we have to do is push ourselves into what we do want, and it's the power and the love and the soundness of mind, clearness of thinking, choosing what we want to think. Focus on what you want. And when your focus moves away from what you want, just bring it back. Just bring it back to where you want to go. Philippians 3:14 says this. He says, "And I press towards the mark of the high calling of God." I press. And that again, that's a choice. That's a focus. Matthew 6:33 says, "But seek ye first." This is Jesus telling us what to do. And that's to choose what you're going to go after. Seek first. Seek first. Matthew 4:19 says, "Come and follow me." There's a prescribed path, and we have to choose to follow it. We have to make that choice where we're going to go. We're going to follow in the healthy path, the path around the chug hole or the stone in the path. And if we make those choices, things are better. Life is good. It may be challenging, it may be difficult, but you know what? If you're able to focus, stand your ground and focus, next thing you'll know, you'll be feeling better. Why? Why would you be feeling better? It's because you're not being pushed around emotionally. You're allowing that power and that love and that soundness of mind to come in to your brain, to your heart. So I want to challenge you today. Stand your ground. Say, this is where I'm at. I'm going to be all right. It may feel overwhelming. I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to throw this in here. I remember many years ago, I woke up one morning just overwhelmed in panic. I just felt like everything was going to crash down around me. I was going to lose my business investments that I had going on, and I realized it's just anxiety. It's just fear. And so I'd learned a technique, and it's called facing your fears, but it's a worst case scenario mentality. And I thought, could I survive in the worst case? If I lost all my investment, that if the banks were to foreclose, could I survive? And even though I didn't want to think about it, I went on and thought about it. I thought about, yes, in the worst case scenario, it wouldn't be what I wanted to do, but I could make it. I could survive. I would do it. And if you can survive the worst case scenario, you can survive anything above that. Now, things are challenging, but the fact of it is they're already getting better. They're going to get even more, I want to say more better, but it'll get better. And so what we need to do is just stand our ground. Don't give in to the fear, and receive God's peace. So an encouraging word from Doug today is stand your ground. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may His face shine upon you and give you His peace. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.